Ancient Egyptian creation myth, its origins, in relation to modern science. Who is Atum, and how is he linked to modern Atum? How is the myth connected to Freemasonry, George Washington, Isaac Newton, and the biblical apocalypse of the Great Flood? All that and much more will be discovered on episode 7 of Mystifiles. Before I start, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as it does help my channel grow. The world is a riddle, and history is its cipher. Thank you for joining Mystifiles, a gateway where we explore the mysteries of the unknown. Today, I will take you into a journey to ancient Egyptian creation myth and its relation to modern world, and we will delve into the esoteric and exoteric meaning of the creation myth. Did the universe always exist, and then one day, by accident, substances combined in such a way that it created life? Or was it created by a sentient being or beings? Was it all planned? Are we all actors in some cosmic story? A story that is not quite our own? It's interesting that those same questions were asked by the ancient Egyptians. Until this modern day, we are studying the same mystery of how this world began. There are many creation myth versions in ancient Egypt, like the Heliopolis, the Memphis, the Tebet, and the Heliopolis. However, today we will be mainly talking about the Heliopolis version of the creation myth, dating back to 2300 BC. But in later episodes, I will dive deeper and do a comparative video between different versions. The different myths had all some elements in common. They all held that the world has risen out of the lifeless waters of chaos, called Nu. They also included a pyramid-shaped mound called Bemben, which was the first thing to emerge from the waters. These elements were likely inspired by the flooding of the Nile River each year, where the receding floodwaters left fertile soil behind, and the Egyptians may have equated this with emergence of life from the primeval chaos. Before creation, according to the Heliopolis creation myth, only darkness embraced the primeval ocean out of which life would come. When the breath of life was strong and ready, the entity called Atum decided it was time for creation to begin. But now you're asking, where did Atum come from? And how did he exist? Atum is a self-created god. He created himself out of the primeval ocean. You can think of Atum as the first self-conscious god that came to existence. And does his name ring a bell for you? Atum actually is a modern word we use in schools to define what existence is made from, which is the word associated with atoms. That is a very interesting correlation that shows how literally this deity was able to penetrate the modern scientific world in the most mysterious ways, proving the saying of nothing can hide from a pharaoh's sight, and the curse of ancient deities that is still coded in our modern world. Seems more like ancient Egyptians were giving us some prehistoric clues about our modern day science and what the world is made up from. Or maybe us humans are giving this world a more materialistic meaning and transforming the ancient stories into science. After Atum came to existence, a mound called Bemben emerged from the water to support the divinity of Atum. And here I want to give you more explanation about the mound called Bemben that rose from the water, which is where today's Egyptian pyramids and capstone obelisks were inspired from. And by the way, if you want to understand the mystery behind the obelisks, I would recommend you to watch this episode on this channel called Secrets of the Obelisk to better understand the riddle. I'll leave you the link in the description box. What ancient Egyptians were actually trying to build was not only pyramidal tombs for the pharaohs, but also a cosmological architecture of creation in the form of matter, or as the famous saying, as above, so below. They were trying to imitate the above divine law into earth to bring balance and order. But what kind of order am I referring to? Stay tuned as you will soon know in the next few minutes. But before I continue, I would like to thank you for liking and sharing this episode with anyone you know who likes ancient mysteries. On the primeval mound, Atum, who is an androgynous god holding both male and female characteristics, created out of himself by spitting the first gods. The first god's name was Shu, which was actual air, and the second was Tefnut, which is humidity. Both of his children deities decided to separate from their origin source Atum to explore the world. But Atum later missed his children and decided he wants to send his eye in search for them to bring them back. When the eye successfully found them and brought them back, he cried out of joy, and from his tears came to existence all of creation. When Atum's eye came back, it manifested as the aspect of god Ra, whom is the sun god. But by then, Atum had already created another eye which represented the moon. So he anointed Ra to watch over the world in the morning, and that was the first emergence of the sun on the primeval mound, and ancient Egyptians called this event as Zep Tepi, or the first occasion where time started. The sun and moon are merely the eyes of Atum in the ancient Egyptian mythology, or in other words, the watchers and the keepers of time. And from this story came many conspiracy images, like the one on the dollar bill where you see a pyramid with an eye on top, symbolizing the primeval mound, and the all-seeing eye of Ra that was anointed by Atum. No doubt those symbols came from Freemasonic influences back in the time of President George Washington, as Freemasons were highly influenced by the ancient Egyptian teachings, and like any other civilization, our modern civilization was obsessed over watching its citizens, but this time not by the eye of Ra, but rather by the eye of the cameras. Going back to our creation myth, Ra then became the first ruler and pharaoh of the world, whom his main mission is to maintain order in the world that originally came from the waters of chaos. This reminds us of how there is an order in the chaos that can bring harmony to the world. But was Ra able to fulfill his mission? That is what you will explore in the next few minutes. Now, Atum's children, Shu and Tefnut, in other words, air and humidity, then would engender other gods to complete the cosmos. And those gods would be Gab, the earth god, or the male aspect of power and activeness, and Nut, the sky goddess, the female aspect or the womb of earth, whom later got separated to create space for creation to dwell in. In turn, these two newly created gods then birthed two other gods and two other goddesses who represented the four forces of life. They were Osiris, or the god of fertility, Isis, the goddess of healing and protection, Set, the god of evil or bringer of chaos, Nephthys, goddess of death. This sums up four laws that govern Atum's world: fertility, to bring life; healing, to maintain it from the third law, which is chaos of evil; and lastly, death, that brings justice among all classes and balance for new generations to come and make a change. Ra, on top of these laws, had a mission to keep the order in the world where chaos and order coexist. All that being said, you can see how the elements of the ancient Egyptian creation myth were mainly influenced from Egypt's environment and nature. The primeval ocean can be influenced from the Nile River and Mediterranean Sea. The mound Bemben from actual desert mounds that reappear after each flood, and later the air and the humidity. Also, I would like to add my own theory that the ancient Egyptian pyramids of Giza were actually a way for ancient Egyptians to draw their creation myth on a macroscopic scale, where the Great Pyramid can represent the mound Benben from the creation myth. And once a major flood happens in Egypt, the pyramid would get immersed in the water of chaos, or in other words, the primeval ocean from their creation myth. And here, the pyramid can be a shelter for the pharaoh, whom is the direct representative of the deity Ra, whom is mentioned in the creation myth. And once the water from the floods dries out, the pharaoh would emerge on top of the pyramid, representing the god Ra, who is in return the bringer of order and hope of Egypt to bring balance after the major flood. But this also raises too many questions, like, would there be a drainage system right beneath the pyramid that allows the water to drain in case of floods? And could it be that the ancient Egyptians built those pyramids because they were awaiting a major flood prophecy like the one in the holy books? Is it actually a gigantic bunker that the pharaoh or the ancient Egyptian elites would shelter from the major flood coming into their way? This also reminds me of Isaac Newton's study about the pyramids, where he mentioned that the pyramids hold the key to doomsday, and through the pyramids we can understand the major biblical apocalypses. And the creation myth did connect too many dots for me to understand what Newton was actually talking about. All that and much more will be discovered in the next episode of Mystified, where you will discover the relationship between the pyramids and the biblical apocalypses, connecting them to the newly discovered cylindrical wells that recently were discovered underneath the pyramid of Khafre. Stay tuned for more, and may the veil of secrets be with you. I would like to give you special thanks for reaching this part of the video. Also, if you would like to discover why some ancient Egyptian deities appeared in this video with animal heads, I would recommend you to watch this video on the right, where you will discover the truth behind animal-headed gods. Also, if you would like to support my channel, you can do that by simply liking and sharing the video, or by donating on my Patreon account. I will leave you the links in the description box. See you in the next episode.